So once the app loads, this is going to give us an average of all the users that are using it for the given position, the week. Right now in the gray bar at the top, you can see that we're looking at the average. So what that's giving us is the best, the worst, and the average amongst all users. But we can tap that and it'll give us a few other options, and we can go into the stats view. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us the projections, how many fantasy points each player is projected for, what the points per game is, the total points. So if this is something that's helpful, you can use that. Something that I personally find myself using, especially with kickers, is I go to the weather and take a look at, what's the temperature, how windy is it going to be. But aside from those different views, also in the gray bar, you can tap on the consensus up in the top left corner. And then this will give you the option of either going to your own rankings, where you can move those up and down, set them however you want, or you can go into the rankings of someone that you're following. So when you go into my rankings, what we can do is we'll see that a lot of the positions right now are locked because I'm recording this Monday. All the games have played. But when you scroll down, you'll see visually that the games that haven't played yet are unlocked, and they kind of look like they have a bit of a shadow to kind of show that they can be moved. So you can either hold down on a player and then just drag them up and down to any type of unlocked position, or you can tap the number to the left of their name, and what that will do is give the options of where they can be moved. So for the unlocked positions, and then you can just select wherever you want to move them up or down to. One thing to take note is that whenever making these changes, it's a continuously updating platform. So there's no save button, there's no update. It's just any change is just always going to be updating to the consensus. But if you're ever wondering about certain information about a player, you can pull up their profile. We have stats, news, their combine measurables. If that's something you want to see, who's the fastest, who's the strongest, most, explosive. But in addition to looking at those individual players and looking at them for your own rankings, you can select someone who you're following. If there's someone who looks to be doing really well for a period of time and you don't want to have to hunt them down week in and week out, you can start following them, and it's a lot easier to check out their rankings this way. You can, in the gray bar, tap on the weeks, and you can switch from week 7 if you want to see how past weeks have gone. You can also change the positions and set those however you see fit. Some other data points to look at are the trending. What this does is look at the consensus for the week that you're looking in and compare it to the consensus from the previous week so that you can get a gauge of which players are moving up, which ones are moving down. You can narrow it down by position. You can also narrow it down by if you want to look at just positive movements, negative movements, and you can also look at what trending was, from past weeks. You can also move over into the buy type of view. With unlike normal fantasy football where it's just you might have 2 players on bye and you just have to move them into your bench. With this type of mindset, it seemed a bit cumbersome to have to be moving tens to hundreds of players from your ranking spots, moving them down so that they weren't high up on your rankings just because they were on bye. So this idea is that when a week turns to week 8, anyone who's on bye will move from the ranking set over to this temporary bye table so that they're not cluttering up the ranking page and you don't have to worry about them. And then when the next week happens, everyone who was on bye moves back into the rankings page, and it's this back and forth type of movement depending on who's on bye for a certain week. In addition to the buy, there's the leader section. This is just a quick glance at who's a season leader and who actually won each individual week. In addition to looking at the leaders for the top 10 or the individual week winners, you can go into the standings. section, which can be tapped at the bottom. And what this will do is it will give you, all weeks as a default, but you can click on the gray bar up at the top and change the filters to different week ranges. And then you can also change on different positions up in the top corner. So maybe you don't want to see all positions. You want to see who's been doing the best for a certain period of time for quarterbacks or running backs. And then what you can also do, in addition to looking at each individual position, is that you can, in the gray bar, tap on the totals only, and you can take a look at every week, and then you can get a better idea of not just who has the most points for the weeks and the position, but how do they do for each individual week to make up that total. Those numbers are also clickable, and what they'll do is they'll give you the totals for how many points, if you're looking at all positions, how many points you received for each position, how well you did for that position compared to all the other people that are using it and ranking it. You can also go into individual positions to get a better idea of, this user ranked Kyler Murray first, but for week 5, Kyler Murray was actually 5th. And then second was Mahomes, and he actually was second, so it actually earned him more points because he was very accurate on that pick. And then you can take a look at all the other positions and get a better idea of, where individual users or yourself, where you succeeded or where you maybe weren't as accurate. You can switch between trending and leaders in here as well. There's a notifications page at the bottom for, if you send a following request, you'll be able to get an idea of when that's been accepted. And in the bottom right corner, there's a main menu button where you can take a look at the different settings, about pages, and there's a search section where you can search different rankings, standings, users, and find people that way. Also within the main menu page, you can go into your own profile so that you can not just, where standings will let you know kind of for a big range how everyone has kind of been doing. If you just want to find out for your own personal rankings how you did, your own profile is the best way.